The first thing Lina heard was the steady beep of a heart monitor. It was slow, mechanical, and painfully real. Her eyelids felt heavy, as if someone had stitched sleep into them. When she finally forced them open, white light stabbed into her eyes. The smell of disinfectant filled her nose. A hospital room. She blinked. Why am I in a hospital? The last thing Lina remembered was lying in bed, scrolling through her phone late at night. She had just finished reading a modern romance novel, one of those popular web novels filled with misunderstandings, rich families, and tragic female villains. She remembered feeling angry, even crying a little, before falling asleep. Her head throbbed. As she tried to sit up, a sharp pain shot through her chest. Instinctively, she looked down. Slender hands. Pale skin. A thin wrist with a delicate bracelet engraved with the letters LC. Her breath caught. No, she whispered. A sudden wave of memories crashed into her mind like a violent tide. A little girl following a boy through a garden, calling his name with bright eyes. Evan, wait for me. A teenage girl standing outside a company building in the rain, holding an umbrella she never got to give. A woman screaming in a cold basement, wrists tied, blood dripping onto concrete, while a man looked down at her with disgust and disappointment. You're truly disgusting, Lina. Her body trembled violently. Lina gasped and clutched her head as images that were not hers burned through her consciousness. She knew them. She had read them. This body belonged to Lina Chen, the villainess of the novel. Tears slid down the sides of her face without her realizing it. No, 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 no. She wasn't dreaming. She was reborn. Reborn into the body of the woman who would die the most miserable death in the entire story. The villainess who loved the male lead since childhood. The woman who would be accused of ruining the female lead's life. The woman who would be tortured and killed by the man she loved most. Her chest tightened so painfully she could barely breathe. So this is how she felt, Lina whispered hoarsely. In the novel, Lina Chen was written as arrogant, cruel, and obsessive. Readers hated her. They celebrated her death. But now, lying in this hospital bed, Lina felt only a deep, bone-level exhaustion. She wasn't angry. She was scared. The door suddenly opened. Lina, you're awake. A woman in elegant clothes rushed in. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were filled with impatience rather than worry. Aunt Chen. Her stepmother. Lina remembered this woman clearly, someone who always smiled gently in public but never once protected Lina in private. You fainted again, Aunt Chen continued, adjusting her handbag. The doctor said it's stress. You really should stop thinking about unnecessary things. Unnecessary things. Lina knew exactly what that meant. Evan Liu. She closed her eyes briefly. In the original story, this fainting episode happened because Lina saw Evan protecting Mia Ju for the first time. She confronted him, embarrassed Mia publicly, and officially began her path as a villain. This moment was the starting point. But Lina didn't feel jealousy. She felt relief. Because now she knew everything. She knew how the story ended. And she didn't want to walk that road again. I understand, Lina said softly. Aunt Chen froze. She wasn't expecting that answer. You do. Lina opened her eyes. They were calm, too calm. I won't cause trouble anymore. Aunt Chen studied her suspiciously, then nodded. That's good. You're an adult now. Don't embarrass the Chen family. After she left, the room fell silent again. Lina stared at the ceiling, heart slowly steadying. I loved him because this body loved him. But I don't need to continue that love. In the novel, Lina Chen's tragedy came from fighting fate, fighting the female lead, fighting public opinion, fighting Evan's indifference. But Lina had lived once already. She knew something the original Lina never did. Love that must be begged for is not love. She slowly sat up, ignoring the lingering pain in her chest. First rule, she murmured to herself, voice steady despite the fear still lingering inside. Stay away from Evan Liu. No more childhood confessions. No more waiting outside buildings. No more humiliating jealousy. She would not harm the female lead. She would not compete. She would disappear from their story. Outside the hospital window, The city lights glowed softly, unaware that a fate had quietly shifted. Somewhere in the same city, Evan Lu was meeting Mia Ju for the first time. And for once, Lina Chen was not watching. She lay back down, closing her eyes, one hand resting over her heart. "This life," she whispered. "I choose to survive." The heart monitor continued its steady rhythm. For the first time, Lina felt it. Not hatred. Not obsession. But a fragile, trembling sense of hope. The next morning, Lina was discharged from the hospital. Her father didn't come. He sent his assistant instead. "Miss Chen, Chairman Chen asked me to take you home," the assistant said politely, already checking his phone. "He has an important meeting." Lina nodded. She wasn't surprised. In Lina Chen's memories, her father had always been like this, present in name only. As long as she didn't cause trouble or damage the family image, he considered his duty fulfilled. The car ride was quiet. Lina leaned her head against the window, watching the city rush past. Tall buildings, busy streets, familiar yet distant, this world felt real in a way her previous life never did. "This is not a novel anymore," she reminded herself. "This is my life." When she returned to the Chen family villa, everything was exactly as she remembered. Cold marble floors. Tasteful but impersonal furniture. A house built to impress outsiders, not to comfort the people living inside. Aunt Chen instructed the servants to prepare light meals and reminded Lina to rest properly. Her tone was gentle, but her eyes kept flicking toward Lina's phone on the table. Waiting for a call. From Evan Lu. In the original story, Lina would have called him the moment she woke up. She would have cried, accused him of not caring, demanded reassurance. This time, Lina picked up her phone and turned it off. The silence felt strange. But also, peaceful. 2 days later, Lina returned to work at the Chen Group. She worked in the planning department, a position arranged partly because of her family background and partly because she had once insisted on being useful to Evan Lu's business circle. In the novel, this allowed her to constantly cross paths with him. Now, she walked into the office with her head down and her steps steady. "Morning, Lina." "Good morning." She greeted colleagues politely, without her usual sharpness. No sarcastic remarks. No impatient sighs. No cold looks. People noticed. "She seems different," someone whispered. Lina heard it. She didn't react. At her desk, she focused on her work with quiet determination. Plans, numbers, schedules, things that made sense, things that followed rules. Unlike emotions. At noon, her phone buzzed. Evan Lu. Her fingers stiffened. For a brief second, her heart reacted on instinct, tightening, aching, remembering years of longing that didn't belong to her, but to this body. Then Lina took a slow breath. She didn't answer. 5 minutes later, another call. Then a message. "Where are you?" Lina stared at the screen. In the novel, this message came with authority. Evan was used to Lina appearing whenever he called. He never asked if she was free. He never wondered if she wanted to come. After a long pause, Lina typed a short reply. "At work. Busy." She put the phone face down. Across the city, Evan Lu frowned at his screen. That afternoon, a familiar scene unfolded at Lu Group headquarters. A young woman stood awkwardly near the reception desk, clutching a folder tightly to her chest. Her clothes were simple, her expression nervous but sincere. "Mia Ju?" the receptionist asked. "Yes," Mia replied softly. I'm here to submit these documents." Evan happened to pass by. He noticed her hesitation, the way she bit her lip, clearly overwhelmed by the imposing environment. Something stirred an instinct to help. "Bring them to my office," he said calmly. Mia looked up, startled. Thank you, President Lu." This was the moment the story began. The male lead and female lead met. And for once, Lina Chen was not there to witness it. That evening, Lina attended a business banquet with her father. She wore a simple black dress, hair tied neatly behind her head. No bold makeup. No flashy jewelry. She looked quiet. Invisible. Exactly how she wanted it. She stayed close to the corner, sipping water and observing the room. Conversations buzzed around her: investments, partnerships, rumors. "Miss Chen." A male voice broke through her thoughts. She turned. The man standing in front of her was tall, relaxed, wearing a casual smile that didn't quite match the formal atmosphere. His suit jacket was unbuttoned, tie loose, eyes bright with amusement. "Do we know each other?" Lina asked politely. "Not yet," he replied easily. "Ryan Shen." She recognized the name instantly. The playboy. In the novel, Ryan Shen was a side character. Known for his carefree attitude, changing girlfriends frequently, never serious about anything. He appeared briefly and disappeared just as quickly. He was not supposed to matter. "Oh," Lina said calmly. "Hello." She made no effort to continue the conversation. Ryan raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "You're not running away, not clinging, not annoyed." "Should I be?" Lina asked. He laughed softly. "Interesting." Before she could respond, a familiar figure entered the banquet hall. Evan Liu. The atmosphere subtly shifted. Conversations lowered. Attention turned. Lina felt it instantly: the pull of the story, the weight of the past. Her fingers tightened around the glass. Ryan noticed. He followed her gaze briefly, then looked back at her face. "You don't look happy to see him." "I'm not," Lina said quietly. It wasn't a dramatic declaration. Just a fact. Ryan studied her for a moment, his playful expression fading into something more thoughtful. "Well," he said lightly, stepping aside to block her line of sight, "then don't look." Lina froze. It was such a small gesture. But no one had ever done that for her before. As Evan's eyes swept the room, they paused where Lina stood only to find her gone. For the first time since childhood, Lina Chen chose distance. And somewhere deep inside, fate began to lose its grip. The next day, Lina woke up earlier than usual. Morning light filtered through the thin curtains, soft and pale. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the quiet hum of the house. No raised voices. No footsteps rushing to meetings. No one checking where she was going. It felt empty. But it also felt safe. She sat up and pressed a hand to her chest. The faint pain from her fainting episode had almost disappeared, but something else lingered, an invisible tension she couldn't quite name. "I changed my actions," she thought. But the story hasn't disappeared. After getting ready, Lina left for work as usual. The office was busy, but orderly. She focused on her tasks, deliberately avoiding any mention of Liu Group projects. When colleagues chatted about President Liu and a new female employee who had caught his attention, Lina simply listened without expression. She didn't interrupt. She didn't react. But inside, she was counting. In the novel, after Evan met Mia, accidents began to happen. Small misunderstandings at first. Then rumors. Then danger. "I must stay invisible," Lina reminded herself. At lunchtime, Lina ate alone at her desk. As she was about to take another bite, her phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number. She hesitated, then answered. "Hello. Miss Quiet," a cheerful voice said. "Have you eaten?" Lina stiffened. "Ryan Shen?" "Correct," he replied lightly. "I remembered your voice." She frowned slightly. "How did you get my number?" "Your business card. Banquets are useful like that." Lina looked at the phone in disbelief. "Why are you calling me?" There was a brief pause on the other end. "Because you looked lonely yesterday," Ryan said, his tone softer than before. "And because I was bored." She almost laughed. "I'm at work," Lina said. "If there's nothing important." "Then eat properly," he interrupted. "Your voice sounds weak." Before she could respond, the call ended. Lina stared at the screen for a long moment. Strange man, she thought. But when she looked down at her lunch, she realized something even stranger. She was smiling. Over the next few days, Ryan appeared, randomly. Once, at the cafe near her office, casually sitting 2 tables away. Once, in the elevator of a shopping mall she rarely visited. Always smiling. Always relaxed. Never crossing a line. He never asked about Evan. Never asked about her past. He talked about trivial things, food, traffic, bad movies. It was easy. Too easy. That made Lina wary. In her experience, kindness always came with a price. One evening, rain poured down suddenly as Lina left the office. She stood under the building's awning, staring at the grey sky, wondering if she should just run for it. A black umbrella appeared above her head. "Careful," Ryan said. "You'll catch a cold." She looked up at him, surprised. "You followed me?" He shrugged. "I was passing by." Lina didn't argue. She stepped under the umbrella, keeping a polite distance. They walked in silence for a while, rain tapping gently against the fabric overhead. "People think I'm unreliable," Ryan said suddenly. Lina glanced at him. "Do you care?" "Sometimes," he replied honestly. "But it saves me trouble." She understood that more than she expected. When they reached her home, Lina stopped. "Thank you. You don't have to walk me further." Ryan handed her the umbrella. "What about you?" she asked. "I have another," he said, smiling. "I always do." She accepted it after a brief hesitation. "Good night, Miss Quiet." "Good night, Mr. Shin." As she watched him walk away, Lina felt a faint warmth spread through her chest. It scared her. That same night, trouble quietly began elsewhere. Mia Ju stayed late at Lu Group, working overtime to correct a mistake she believed was her fault. When she finally left, the building was nearly empty. She didn't notice the black car parked across the street. The Lu family's business enemy had been watching her for days. From a distance, a photo was taken. From another angle, someone sent an anonymous message. And just like in the novel, a name was typed into the draft accusation. Lina Chen. The following morning, Lina was called into her father's study. He stood by the window, back straight, voice stern. "Why have the Lu family contacted us?" he asked without turning around. Lina's heart sank. "So it begins," she murmured. "What did you say?" her father demanded. Lina lifted her head. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were clear. "I did nothing," she said firmly. "And this time, I will prove it." For the first time, Chairman Chen turned to look at his daughter, really look at her. Outside, the clouds gathered. And somewhere between rumors and rain, the playboy with kind eyes began to step closer, not as part of the story, but as Lina's quiet shield. The rumor spread faster than Lina expected. By noon, whispers followed her through the office corridors. People lowered their voices when she passed, glances sharp with curiosity and suspicion. Phones buzzed. Messages were deleted the moment she looked up. Lina understood this rhythm too well. In the novel, this was the point where the world began to turn against her. She sat at her desk, spine straight, hands steady on the keyboard. On the screen was a project proposal she had worked on for weeks, but the words blurred slightly. "Stay calm," she told herself. "Panic is what destroys you." Her phone vibrated. This time, it wasn't Evan. It was her father. "Come to the Lu Group immediately," he said without greeting. "Mrs. Lu is there." Lina closed her eyes briefly. Mrs. Lu, the woman who would later order her confinement, her interrogation, her torture, all in the name of justice for Mia Ju. "I'll be there," Lina replied evenly. She stood, picked up her bag, and walked out without explanation. The atmosphere at Lu Group was cold and tense. Lina could feel it the moment she stepped into the lobby. The receptionist's polite smile was stiff. Security watched her more closely than necessary. In the conference room, Mrs. Lu sat at the head of the table, dressed impeccably, her expression sharp with restrained fury. Evan stood beside her, tall and silent, eyes unreadable. Mia Ju sat slightly behind them, her face pale, eyes rimmed with red. When Lina entered, all gazes turned to her. "This is her," Mrs. Lu said coolly, without preamble. "Lina Chen." Lina met her gaze calmly. "Madam Lu." Mrs. Lu didn't return the courtesy. "Do you know why you're here?" "Yes," Lina answered. "Because Mia Ju was followed and threatened last night." Mia flinched. Mrs. Lu's eyes narrowed. "You admit it?" "No," Lina said quietly. "I acknowledge the accusation." Evan finally spoke. "Lina, if you know something, Now is the time to say it. There it was. That familiar tone, controlled, distant, already leaning toward judgment. In the original story, Lina would have lost control here. She would have cried, shouted, accused Mia of pretending. That emotional outburst sealed her fate. This time, Lina remained still. I left work at 6, she said calmly. I went home alone. You can check the security cameras at my office building and my residence. Mrs. Lu scoffed. You think we haven't? Then you know I wasn't there, Lina replied. Silence fell. Mia bit her lip, gathering courage. Auntie. I don't think Sister Lina would do this. Mrs. Lu turned sharply. Mia, you're too kind. That's why people take advantage of you. Lina watched the scene with a strange detachment. So this is how it looks from the outside, she thought. Kindness framed as weakness. Silence twisted into guilt. Mrs. Lu leaned forward. Lina Chen, you've loved Evan since childhood. Now that Mia has appeared, your jealousy. I don't love him anymore, Lina interrupted. The words fell softly, but clearly. Evan's eyes flickered. Mrs. Lu froze. What did you say? I said I don't love Evan Lu anymore, Lina repeated. And I have no reason to harm Miss Ju. For a brief moment, the room wavered. Evan stared at her, as if seeing her for the first time. Lina, this isn't the time to play games. Lina looked at him, truly looked at him. The man she once waited for in the rain. The man who never once chose her when it mattered. I'm not playing, she said. I'm telling the truth. Mrs. Lu stood abruptly. Enough. Whether you admit it or not, the evidence. The door opened. Everyone turned. Ryan Shen walked in casually, hands in his pockets, expression relaxed as if he were late to a friendly meeting rather than walking into a storm. Sorry to interrupt, he said cheerfully. But I think you're missing something. Mrs. Lu frowned. Who are you? Ryan Shen, he replied. And last night, Miss Lina Chen was with me. The room exploded. Evan's head snapped toward Lina. What? Lina's eyes widened. Ryan. Ryan raised a hand slightly, a silent reassurance. We had dinner, he continued calmly. At a restaurant near her home. There are cameras. Receipts. And I walked her back. Mrs. Lu's expression darkened. Why would you protect her? Ryan smiled, but there was steel beneath it. Because she's innocent. He turned his gaze to Evan. And because someone should. The words struck harder than shouting ever could. Evan's jaw tightened. The silence stretched. Finally, Mrs. Lu sat back down, displeased but restrained. Check everything, she ordered coldly. If this is true, we'll discuss it later. Lina stood frozen, heart pounding. Ryan turned to her, voice low. Are you okay? She nodded slowly, emotions tangled in her chest. No one had ever stepped forward like this for her. Not her father. Not Evan. When they left the building together, Lina finally spoke. You didn't have to do that, she said. Ryan stopped walking and looked at her seriously. Yes, I did. She swallowed. Why? He hesitated for a fraction of a second, then smiled again, gentler this time. Because I don't like seeing good people blamed for other people's stories. Lina looked up at the sky. The clouds were still heavy, but the rain hadn't fallen yet. For the first time since her rebirth, Lina realized something important. She was no longer standing alone in the storm. The scandal did not disappear overnight. Although the evidence cleared Lina of direct involvement, rumors still clung to her name like damp fog. People didn't apologize, they simply stopped talking. In business circles, silence was another form of judgment. Lina returned to the Chen villa late that night. The house was brightly lit, as if waiting for her. Aunt Chen sat on the sofa, tea untouched on the table. Her father stood nearby, jacket still on, his expression stern. You embarrassed us today, Chairman Chen said the moment Lina entered. Lina paused. In the original story, she would have argued. She would have cried that she was innocent, that she was wronged. This time, she only felt tired. I was accused of a crime I didn't commit, Lina said calmly. And I proved it. That's not the point, her father snapped. The Liu family is unhappy. Do you know what that means for our cooperation? So I should apologize? Lina asked quietly. Aunt Chen spoke gently, as if offering kindness. Lina, sometimes saying sorry isn't about right or wrong. It's about peace. Lina looked at her. Peace for whom? She asked. Neither of them answered. In that silence, Lina finally understood something she had avoided for a long time. This house was not her shelter. It never had been. I'm going to rest, Lina said, bowing her head slightly. We can talk business later. She walked upstairs without waiting for permission. Behind her, her father stared at her back, unsettled. This daughter, quiet, composed, no longer pleading, felt unfamiliar. And unfamiliar things were hard to control. The next day, Lina submitted a request for leave. Not long term. Just a few days. She didn't explain. At noon, her phone rang. Ryan Shen. Lunch? He asked casually. I'm not very good company right now, Lina replied. That's fine, he said. I'm excellent company. I'll balance it out. She hesitated, then agreed. They met at a small, quiet restaurant tucked away from the main streets. It was nothing fancy, wooden tables, soft music, the smell of soup in the air. Lina felt her shoulders relax the moment she sat down. Ryan noticed. You don't like noisy places, he said. Lina glanced at him. You noticed? I notice a lot, he replied lightly. They ate in comfortable silence for a while. Then Ryan said, Come with me this afternoon. Lina frowned. Where? My grandmother's place, he said. She's been asking about you. Lina nearly choked on her drink. Why would your grandmother ask about me? Ryan smiled. Because I told her I met someone quiet and kind. Her heart skipped, unsteady. That's dangerous praise. She's worse, he replied cheerfully. She'll decide whether you're worth liking in 5 minutes. Lina should have refused. But something in her, maybe loneliness, maybe curiosity, made her nod. Ryan's grandmother lived in an old apartment complex far from the city center. The building was worn, the stairs narrow, but sunlight streamed warmly through the windows. The door opened before Ryan could knock. An elderly woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile looked them over. So this is the girl, she said. Grandma, Ryan sighed. Don't stare. She ignored him and took Lina's hand. You look thin. Come in. Inside, the apartment was small but alive. Plants by the window. Family photos on the wall. The smell of steamed buns. Sit, Grandma Shen ordered. Eat. Lina obeyed automatically. No one asked her surname with suspicion. No one tested her worth. They talked about ordinary things, weather, food, old TV dramas. Grandma Shen complained about Ryan's careless image and scolded him for not wearing warmer clothes. Lina watched quietly. This was what a home felt like. When it was time to leave, Grandma Shen held Lina's hands tightly. Come again, she said. You bring good energy. Lina nodded, throat tight. In the car, she stared out the window. Thank you, she said softly. For what? Ryan asked. For showing me a place where no one expects anything from me. Ryan's grip on the steering wheel tightened slightly. That's not true, he said after a pause. I expect you to live well. She turned to look at him. He wasn't smiling. Meanwhile, at Lou Group, unease lingered. Evan stood by the window of his office, replaying the scene from the conference room in his mind. I don't love you anymore. Her words had been calm, certain. Not a performance. Mia sat across from him, twisting her fingers nervously. President Lou. Sister Lina really helped me before. I don't think she's bad. Evan didn't respond immediately. He remembered Lina's eyes that day, not pleading, not angry. Just tired. For the first time, doubt crept in. Did I ever truly understand her? That night, Lina stood alone on her balcony. The city lights flickered below, distant and cold. She hugged herself, feeling the ache of a childhood spent chasing warmth in the wrong places. Her phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. If you ever feel like you don't belong anywhere, come eat dinner with us. Lina stared at the screen. Slowly, carefully, she typed back. Okay. For the first time since her rebirth, Lina allowed herself to believe. Family didn't have to be blood. And healing didn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it began quietly, with a simple meal, in a place that felt like home. Lina's days slowly settled into a new rhythm. She split her time between work, quiet evenings, and occasional dinners with Ryan and his grandmother. Nothing dramatic happened, no confrontations, no accusations. And yet, for Lina, this calm felt unfamiliar, almost fragile. She kept waiting for something to break. At work, the atmosphere around her had changed. People were more cautious now. No one openly discussed the Liu family incident, but Lina could sense the unspoken tension. She did her job well, efficiently, without emotion. For the first time, she wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. One afternoon, Lina received an unexpected email. An internal audit request. Her fingers paused over the mouse. In the novel, this was around the time when false evidence resurfaced, when people tried to dig up proof of her guilt again. Her chest tightened. She stood up, grabbed her coat, and left the office early. Ryan was surprised when Lina showed up outside his company building. "You look like you're about to disappear," he said lightly, but his eyes were sharp. "Can we go somewhere quiet?" Lina asked. He didn't ask questions. They drove to the outskirts of the city, where buildings thinned and the river ran slow and wide. Ryan parked the car and turned off the engine. Silence settled between them. Lina stared at the water for a long time before speaking. "I keep thinking, even if I do nothing, the past will still catch up to me." Ryan leaned back in his seat. "Because it always did before." She nodded. "In my life before," Lina continued softly, "whenever something bad happened, people decided it was my fault before I even spoke." Ryan didn't interrupt. "So now," she said, voice steady but tired, "I don't know how to trust that things won't end the same way." Ryan exhaled slowly. "Do you know why people think I'm a playboy?" he asked suddenly. Lina blinked, surprised by the change in topic. "Because you act like one." He smiled faintly. "Because it's easier." He turned to look at her, the playful light in his eyes gone. "When I was younger, my parents divorced loudly," he said. "Publicly. Ugly. Everyone took sides. I learned quickly that if you don't let anyone expect anything from you, they can't be disappointed or angry." Lina listened, heart quietly aching. "So I smile. I flirt. I leave first," Ryan continued. "People think they know me, and that keeps them from asking questions I don't want to answer." He paused, then added, "But that also means no one stays." Lina turned to him. For the first time, she saw the loneliness behind his ease. "You stayed," he said, voice low. "Even when I didn't do anything impressive. Even when I was just there." Lina swallowed. "I didn't think you were pretending," she said honestly. Ryan laughed softly. "That might be the nicest thing anyone said to me." The next day, the truth finally began to surface. The Liu family's rival was exposed during a separate investigation. A paper trail emerged, bribes, hired stalkers, planted evidence. The same name appeared again and again in witness statements. The enemy had deliberately framed Lina, knowing her history with Evan would make her an easy target. Mrs. Liu was furious. Mia Ju was devastated. Evan was silent. When the final report landed on his desk, Evan didn't read it immediately. He sat there for a long time, staring at the cover. Memories replayed uninvited. Lina standing alone in the conference room. Lina saying she didn't love him anymore. Lina walking away without looking back. For the first time, guilt, real guilt, settled heavily on his chest. That evening, Evan requested to see Lina. She agreed. They met at a quiet cafe, once a place Lina had waited hours for him in the rain. Now, she arrived on time and felt nothing. "I was wrong," Evan said after a long silence. "About you. About many things." Lina stirred her tea calmly. "I know." Evan flinched slightly. "You know?" "Yes," she replied. "That's why I stopped explaining." He looked at her, searching her face. "Do you hate me?" Lina thought about it. The anger she once imagined never came. No, she said gently. I just don't need you anymore. The words were simple. They ended everything. Evan closed his eyes. I'm sorry, he said. Lina nodded. I hope you protect the people you care about better in the future. She stood and left. Outside, Ryan waited by his car, leaning casually against it. He straightened when he saw her. How did it go? It ended, Lina said. Ryan opened the car door for her without another word. As they drove away, Lina looked out at the passing city lights. For the first time, there was no fear of being dragged back into someone else's story. She reached out and lightly touched Ryan's sleeve. Thank you, she said. For not saving me loudly. Ryan glanced at her, surprised. She smiled faintly. You saved me by staying. He didn't joke this time. He simply nodded and drove a little slower, as if afraid of rushing something precious. Healing, Lina realized, didn't arrive like a miracle. It arrived quietly. When someone chose to walk beside you, without asking you to become anyone else. The city entered late autumn. Leaves turned gold, then rust-colored, gathering along sidewalks and drifting into corners no one noticed until they piled up. Lina liked this season. It felt honest, things changing without apology. Her life had become quieter. She moved out of the Chen villa 2 weeks after meeting Evan. Not dramatically. No arguments, no announcements. She simply rented a small apartment closer to work and informed her father by message. I'll be living independently from now on. Chairman Chen called her 3 times. She didn't answer. The apartment was small but bright. Morning sunlight reached the kitchen table. There was space just for her, no expectations echoing in the walls. Ryan helped her move. He didn't comment on the lack of luxury. He didn't ask if she was sure. He just carried boxes, assembled furniture badly, and apologized when a shelf leaned slightly to the left. This one's imperfect, he said seriously. Lina smiled. So am I. He looked at her for a long second, then laughed. At work, Lina submitted her resignation. Her manager was stunned. You're doing well here. Is it because of the rumors? No, Lina said calmly. It's because I want to start something of my own. And she did. A small consulting studio. Nothing flashy. No family name attached. Just her skills, her effort, her pace. Ryan never interfered. He asked once, carefully, do you want help? Lina shook her head. I want to try first. Okay, he said easily. I'll be right here if you fall. Not when. If. That difference mattered. Meanwhile, the Liu family changed as well. Mia Ju grew stronger, less apologetic, more certain. She no longer relied on Evan to solve every problem. And Evan noticed. He noticed many things too late. One afternoon, Evan stood outside Lina's new office building, hands in his coat pockets, watching people come and go. He had rehearsed his words countless times. When Lina finally appeared, surprised but composed, Evan stepped forward. You look well, he said. So do you, Lina replied politely. There was a distance between them now, clear, undeniable. I heard you moved out, Evan said. Yes. And started your own company. Yes. Evan hesitated. I wanted to ask if there's any chance we could start over. Lina didn't answer immediately. She studied him, the familiar face, the familiar voice, stripped now of authority and certainty. In the novel, this confession was dramatic. Desperate. Too late, but filled with regret. In real life, it was quieter. Evan, Lina said gently, the reason I loved you before wasn't because you were kind to me. He stiffened. It was because I was lonely, she continued. And you were there. She met his eyes steadily. That wasn't love. That was survival. Evan's throat tightened. And now? Now I'm not lonely anymore, Lina said. The words landed softly, but they ended everything. Evan nodded slowly, pain crossing his face. I understand. For the first time, Lina believed him. As she walked away, she didn't look back. That evening, Lina went to Grandma Shen's apartment for dinner. Ryan was late, stuck in traffic. Grandma Shen fussed over Lina instead, pushing food into her bowl. You've lost weight again, she scolded. I'm fine, Lina said, smiling. Grandma Shun looked at her carefully. You look lighter. Not thinner, lighter. Lina paused. Yes, she said. I feel lighter. Ryan arrived halfway through dinner, slightly breathless. Sorry. Lina handed him chopsticks without comment. Afterward, the three of them watched an old TV drama together. Grandma Shun fell asleep midway, head tilted back, peaceful. Ryan turned down the volume. In the quiet, Lina spoke. I think. I'm ready, she said. Ryan looked at her. For what? For choosing, Lina replied. She took a breath. In my first life, and even after rebirth, everything felt decided. Who I loved. How I'd be hurt. How I'd end. Ryan didn't interrupt. But now, Lina continued, I want to choose without fear. She turned to him fully. I like you. Not because you saved me. Not because you're kind. But because I'm calm when I'm with you. Ryan's expression softened completely. He didn't reach for her immediately. That's enough, he said quietly. More than enough. She smiled, eyes warm. Then, can we try? Ryan nodded once. Slowly, he said. At your pace. They sat there, shoulders just touching, no rush, no promise spoken aloud. And it felt right. Later that night, Lina stood alone in her apartment. She opened her phone and found the novel, the one that once defined her fate. She stared at the title for a long moment. Then deleted it. Not angrily. Not triumphantly. Just, done. She lay down, lights off, city quiet outside her window. For the first time, Lina fell asleep without dreaming of accusations, basements, or endings written by someone else. Tomorrow would come. And it would be hers. Winter arrived quietly. There was no dramatic snowfall, no sudden storms, just colder mornings, longer nights, and a gentler pace to the city. Lina liked it. Winter didn't demand brightness. It allowed people to rest. Her consulting studio had been open for 3 months. It was small, only 2 desks, a whiteboard, and a coffee machine that sometimes refused to work. But the clients came steadily. Not because of the Chen family name, and not because of Lu Group connections. They came because Lina was careful, honest, reliable. Every time she signed a contract, she felt a quiet satisfaction settle in her chest. This is mine, she thought. One afternoon, Lina locked up the office and stepped outside to find Ryan waiting across the street. He was leaning against his car, phone in hand, scarf loosely wrapped, looking entirely unhurried. You're early, she said as she approached. I escaped, he replied. Don't tell my employees. She smiled. Where are we going? Home, he said naturally. She paused. Not your place. Not my place. Home. Ryan noticed her hesitation and added gently, Grandma made soup. She said if we're late, she'll eat everything herself. Lina laughed softly. Then we should hurry. Grandma Shun's apartment was warm and fragrant when they arrived. Steam fogged the windows. The old TV played quietly in the background. You're back, Grandma Shun said without looking up. Wash your hands. Ryan obeyed immediately. Lina stood there for a moment, watching the scene, the familiar chaos, the warmth, the lack of tension, and felt something settle deep inside her. Belonging. During dinner, Grandma Shun suddenly spoke. Ryan, she said casually, don't bully her. Ryan choked slightly. When have I ever? Grandma Shun cut him off. If you ever make her cry, you're out. Lina froze. Grandma. I know what kind of girl you are, Grandma Shun said, finally looking at her. You carry pain quietly. People like that need someone steady. Ryan looked at Lina, his expression serious. I know. There was no grand vow. No dramatic promise. Just certainty. Later that night, Lina and Ryan walked home together. The streetlights cast long shadows on the ground. Their breath fogged the air. Do you ever think about the past? Ryan asked suddenly. Lina considered it. I remember it, she said. But it doesn't hurt the way it used to. She stopped walking and looked at him. I used to think rebirth meant correcting mistakes. Getting revenge. Winning something back. Ryan waited. But now I think, Lina continued, it was about giving myself a chance to live differently. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone, opening an app. On the screen was a blank document. I'm writing, she said. Not a novel. Just things I want to remember. Ryan smiled. Like what? Lina thought for a moment. That it's okay to walk away. That love shouldn't feel like fear. That being chosen matters, but choosing yourself matters more. Ryan nodded. Those are good things. She slipped her phone back into her bag and reached for his hand. This time, he didn't hesitate. Across the city, Evan Liu stood alone in his office late at night. The lights were dim. The building was quiet. On his desk lay a file, an old one, thin with age. Inside were photos from childhood. A little girl in a white dress following him through a garden. Lina. Evan closed the file. For the first time, he didn't feel the urge to chase, to fix, to reclaim. Only regret and acceptance. Some people were meant to teach you something. Not to stay. He turned off the light and left. Spring came early that year. Lina's studio expanded, one new employee, then another. She moved to a slightly larger space. Nothing extravagant. Just enough. One morning, she woke to the smell of coffee. She opened her eyes to find Ryan in the kitchen of her apartment, hair messy, sleeves rolled up, frowning at the coffee machine. It's broken, he said seriously. You said that last week, Lina replied sleepily. It's emotionally broken, he insisted. She laughed, pulling a blanket tighter around herself. Ryan turned and looked at her, really looked at her, relaxed, peaceful, no shadow in her eyes. Lina, he said quietly. Yes. I don't know what the future looks like. But I want to walk it with you. No rush. No pressure. Lina sat up, sunlight warming her face. I know, she said. That's why I choose you. Not because of fate. Not because of a story. But because, in this life, she finally had a choice. The final scene was simple. Lina stood at her office window, looking out at the city. Cars moved below. People hurried past, each carrying their own stories. She placed a hand over her heart. It beat steadily. Strong. Alive. Voiceover, soft and calm. I was reborn as a villain. But I learned I was never cruel, only unheard. This time, I don't need to prove my goodness. I just need to live. She turned away from the window. The future waited. And for the first time, it was unwritten.